Hello, my DevNation friends. Welcome to a new show. Oh, and I see Anna. I bring Anna straight on stage. Hey,
Hello,
Anna.
hello.
Hey, just in time. You were there at the second it finished. That's awesome timing. Hey, thank you everyone for joining. Say hello in the chat. Last time we did a show, it was live from DevNexus. And our
Yeah.
guest was there already, and then I told him, "Hey, you know what? You should come to the regular show." I hope you're all doing fine. We are at home right now, but we start traveling again next week with Anna, and so the next show will be I don't know when, but it will be later. Anyway, without waiting anymore, let me bring our guest on stage and welcome Rustam. Hey,
Hello.
Hello.
hey, how
Surprise,
are you?
surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Look,
Surprise,
you have a
surprise.
really nice microphone.
Likewise, right? I think we
we,
did match that, right? We
yeah, we
did
did match that. Yeah,
before we did this call, we were like, which
yeah,
microphone are you using?
exactly. Right, which one? And then I have a whole selection of microphone now. Too. And I love the color stuff that you have behind. Are you doing this with LEDs? With
Yeah, that's like four LEDs above
oh
me
yeah,
that kind of project all the lights
oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
I got a way more basic stuff, but with my remote control, can I change
that's
it?
really cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, I can change the color. Yay, yay. Anna, where are your LEDs?
It's still light outside.
I know,
No,
I
no, no, no,
know,
no,
I
no, no,
know.
no. We developers,
We live in the dark. Oh, sun, no. Okay.
Um, I
Mm.
like the sun. I don't know about you too, but I
Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah,
sun.
yeah.
And
Especially in the Netherlands, when the sun is there, you profit of it because
yes, I'm pretty much like, yes, sun, please.
it's.
Stay.
um, okay, so you know what? Like any other show, the first question I ask to the guest is introduce yourself, tell us who you are, the stage is yours.
All right. That's the hard part. Well, thank you first of all. Thank you for having me. That's really, really fun to join you today. My name is Rustam. I live and work in Oslo, Norway. I I work as a consultant. I've been doing it. I think working as a consultant all of my professional life in one way or another, like different, like several companies, several things. But I work in a consultancy company called Computas. I've been doing it for quite some time now. In there, I work, as you can guess, I work mostly with Java. Pretty much all of the time, I've been working. I've been working with Java. I work with cloud. I work with a lot of different things, and I'm also when I'm not doing my consultancy work, I travel to conferences and do talks like pretty much like two of you. And I have, well, Anna is my partner in crime for at least one of the talks. So,
Yeah.
it's like, so we do talks different places. So I present at conferences. I'm a Java champion, like both of you, and I'm also a Google developer expert for cloud. So there is a bit of cloud in my life. And speaking of sun, I don't know, drum roll, I guess. I mean, read a bad joke. I know it's Thursday and it's evening, and just
Yeah.
beware of bad jokes.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I guess that does that work as an
yeah.
introduction?
That's perfect. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And we will be able to talk a bit about cloud maybe later. Yeah. Well, the in the description of this show, we shape that around passion, how passion can drive your career, and so maybe you can tell us your story, you and the computer and the programming language. How does it started? Where were you a kid or came it later? Just tell us your story. We love to hear those
Oh,
stories.
that's really fun. That's like a travel down the memory
Oh
lane
yeah,
with
yeah,
nostalgia and all those things. Well, it was a dark and stormful night. No, well, it wasn't. It was. I think it all started. I have to think. I was in my early teens, I guess, and it all started with a old computers that we used to have at school for some time. I mean, they were kind of way over their time at that moment. They were still running basic.
yeah.
So I mean, they were running something. I don't remember exactly. It was some kind of Commodore 64 like machines, but there was something different, and they were running. If you had to program those, you had to program in BASIC.
Yeah.
So that all started back then in like early teens. I don't remember exactly. I was just like, yeah, I was a kid. And when there was a programming class, we would go there and write some basic and get some books from the teacher, and then you could, like, in the beginning you just started copying code from the book just blindly, and just like, oh, it runs, it actually does something, and then you kind of started modifying things and everything. And then very soon after that, I mean, like I said, it was in 90s, so that those machines were kind of outdated. And then we got very soon after that, we got brand new, super fancy Pentium 2 machines. I mean, that was bleeding edge back then, right? So, like I said, I mean, there was a big gap between those two, and then we could do some other programming stuff. And a few years later, I was still doing a lot of these programming things, and doing all that, and still a little bit of basic, still a little bit of like different things. And then there was I was helping around in that computer room and doing like teaching others, and all these kind of things. And then one of my computer science teachers came to me and said, hey, you know what, there is this new fancy language that just came out that you should really try, you should really think about, and you should really kind of have a look at. And I was like, what was that? And that was Java. That was just like super, just released, and it was wow, it was so cool and so amazing. You should have a look at that. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I was still like teenager, and I was like, okay, new language, fine, okay. Little that I knew that, that language would end up kind of influencing most of my life afterwards, right? So I guess that's the kind of the short version of what happened. It all started with basic. Then it was, I think I was a bit through Pascal.
Okay.
I had a little bit of, I don't remember exactly. I think it was, a little bit of Java early on before I kind of came back to that, and there was some other stuff, and Turbo Pascal. I remember we had to write some code in that, and then I kind of went back to Java at university, and then there was a bunch of other different languages after that, but Java kind of followed me pretty much all the way since it kind of the first version came out. I mean, since 90s.
And when you were doing basic, do you remember the first line of code that you wrote? And do you remember that?
I definitely remember first two characters, because in basic you always had to write line numbers, right? So I'm pretty sure it started with 10, because you did like 10, 20, 30. Yeah. So that's easy. Okay, But I guess it must have been some kind of print hello or something like
hello,
that. It must have been like 10 print hello, go to 10, and all that.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. I always remember. I often talk about that. I've talked keynotes about this topic, and I ask people to really try to remember that exact moment that they hit enter and that their first line of code was executed, and to try to remember how you were feeling. This excitement, and because it's really important if you remember this emotion that you had. I try to find it back every day when I code, when I do Quarkus stuff, and I am amazed. I try to remember to relate with this moment, because it's really important. Maybe if you take some time, you do some relaxation, you will remember exactly what you typed and how you felt back then when you were a kid.
What I remember? I guess I don't remember my first lines of code. I'm pretty sure it must have been some kind of hello or something, hi or something like that, or print something. But what I remember was that we were trying to do some graphics on those machines, and again, I mean, this is kind of scary, because this is going like on a video and record or something. I probably might say something wrong, but if I remember that correctly, with a big like disclaimer and everything. So the thing was, on those machines, there were like a set of, they called like different screens. So there was like screen 0, 1, 2, 3, and it would go all the way till 7 or something.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to move two things toward each other. So I was trying to create a game. So I had like a rabbit and a wolf moving towards each other, and when they kind of overlapped, something would happen, like explosion or something. I don't know, whatever you could do on those tiny little screens, right? That was the thing. So you had to put, if you had to put things on to move towards each other and not move together, you actually had to put them on different screens. So I remember that, you would put like the rabbit on screen 0, and then actually no, screen 0 was actually text only, I think, and then screen 1 was like a rabbit, and the second one would be wolf. And I mean, if there are people remember those things on the stream now, feel free to comment. And I don't remember that now, but it was something like that. And I do remember when I actually got those things moving, and I even got that thing make some sounds, because there was a beeper on that, right? So you could do like a very, very primitive sounds and everything. That was fun. We got some, we were asked to turn down the sound at some point, but
Maybe we can ask our listeners of this show if they remember their first lines of code, and they can type their first lines of code.
And what language it was. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I see one.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like Java from Tesu.
Yeah, that sounds like that.
That's a really nice start as a developer, to start with Java, because when Rustam was like saying about Pascal, I was like, yeah, I remember the days with Pascal, and I was thinking like, I mean, I was in high school at that time, and I was thinking like, how can you make beautiful things like interfaces and all this with Pascal? And there is a part of Pascal where you can make some UI, but it's not easy to deal with. And I remember that I was like wondering how you can make beautiful things.
but you remember, I don't know if you both of you remember, or people listening to remember, but there was this thing later on, like 10-15 years later, there was this thing called Qt, like Qt, where you could which was kind of super revolutionary, and you can finally make widgets and UI much easier. You could put things together. You can you could integrate it from like C and Python and all those languages, and it would just be like super magic. And you could wrap things in it was called widgets. And that was times.
What times? Oh my god.
And look,
I didn't say good time. I said times.
And we have Martin. Hi, Martin.
Hey, Martin.
Hey, Martin. You made it. You survived King's Day. Yeah. So because today, now, Anna, you had a talk today to deliver for Dutch people, and not so many people showed up, but that was not a surprise.
Yes, but it's a short week here, so it's probably that's the reason why.
And sunny week, right?
And also sunny. Well, yesterday was not that sunny, but in the rest of the time, and now when we need to work, there is sun. But it was cool. So yeah, I think it's good weather for the moment. But going back to our subject of programming languages, and given your intro, Rustam, so besides Java, what other programming language do you like to use in your demos or your applications that you're doing for certain conferences?
It's mostly is Java. But look, I if I have to pick two, I would probably, if I would have to pick another one, I would probably mention two more, and that would be, one of them would be Python, because I mean I've been doing a lot of Python in like during my university time. I was teaching both Java and Python at the university and all those kind of things, and also I wrote quite a rather big library in Python for my master's thesis back in the day. So it's kind of, I usually call Java and Python my two mother tongues when it comes to programming, in a way, right? But the third one, I mean, because all good things are three, right? I would probably say shell script. So like scripting. I mean, you can probably discuss and talk about if it's programming language, if
Yeah,
it's not,
I
whatever that
programming.
is. But one of my first talks at different conferences was basically 1 hour of live coding in the shell in bash. Just like I
Well,
would just pull up the terminal and just start hacking away the things, and then like at the end I would fly a drone from the command line and stuff like that. That was fun. So I guess those three languages are kind of quite close to soul or heart or whatever you call that.
yeah.
What about you? What about you guys?
So no, I started like you on maybe I got it here my first computer.
Oh,
Oh,
lucky
he
you! You
kept it.
actually. Oh my god!
So
I
That's
don't
like.
have. I mean,
it's not
mine.
or I bought it again, but it's from Thomson and it was called an MO5. Okay,
Oh,
and that was my father was a teacher, so that was computers from school, but he brought one back home.
Yeah.
And when you turn that on, it was basic. So I started with basic like you.
You
And
too.
my first line was 10, print, seb, 20, go to 10, and run.
There you go.
And I was so impressed. And then I could do some graphics with box F, fill with the color, and I was amazed. But a few weeks later, I started with another language, still on this thing, which was called Logo, with this turtle. And that was mind blowing for me. This is where I learned. This is where my passion really started. And the guy that invented Logo, his name is Seymour Papert. He's the one that started a new department at the MIT. And the same team, they came up with Scratch, the programming
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
It's the same team. Okay,
Wow.
so that's and except from that, for my adult life, Java, of course, and still from the JVM, and I even prepared a banner. I'm a big Groovy fan. This is how
oh,
I, by the way, entered the open source world. I started contributing to Grails. That was the framework with the Groovy.
Groove and Rails. Yeah.
And that's how I give my first talk and start contributing, and how I end up standing here today. So I'm forever grateful to Groovy as well. Yeah,
That's really cool.
And
What about you, Anna?
I mean, I'm like I don't have my first computer because the back in the day when you had computers, they were like coming in units, and I think my first one, I exchanged it or like sold it to buy parts for the new unit when I was in university, because it was like this way, like propagating I don't know, reinvestment, or how does it call it these days, buyback or something like this. But in the old days, so to get parts for the new one, so the old one. And regarding programming languages, well, I told you in high school, Pascal, and I think we did some classes on HTML and CSS. I think I liked that thing. But the serious part, when I started to actually do projects, was again in university. It was not Java. It was PHP. Some of you probably have tried it as well in
sorry to hear that.
university.
I'm so terribly sorry.
My first job, yes, and I always thought like PHP is like for building websites, and I was impressed that my first job was actually used for building products. So PHP is not just for websites. It's very, very strong, and it was quite an interesting journey also in PHP, because after I learned Java, I was kind of like, I wouldn't say stuck, but thinking a lot in Java terms, and I was like used with threads and how things are executed there. So I got the chance to work with processes on the PHP side, and I was like wondering, why doesn't PHP have threads and all these kind of questions? But that was my questions to my younger self that was a junior and didn't know much back then. So yeah, this is my my journey. So first was like 1 year and 10 months of PHP, and afterwards moved into Java. So that's how the
that's
journey
a fun thing.
started.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't regret it. I think it's quite a good thing to not be stuck with just one
Oh yeah,
language,
definitely.
and also have the flexibility to look into the others, including, by the way, Node.js. I know that nowadays it's becoming like a total different branch, doing server-side JavaScript and all these other stuff, but it's quite fascinating to get into that one as well. So an advice for the audience, like try as many languages as possible. It doesn't matter if they're, I don't know, if your friends believe that's not that cool, because back in the day when I was working in PHP, almost everybody in my group of friends was working with Java, and I was the only one. But the way that I was like bragging was about what I was building. So I was like, yeah, but I built this. It's cool.
I went the other way. I was doing Java for a really long time, and then at some point we were working on a project where we had to extend some kind of CMS like thing that was running on PHP, and then they kind of asked me if I could do that, and I did that for a little bit. But very, very soon I said, well, can't we just find somebody else who actually likes doing that and do that? Because I want to go back to Java. Because, it was a bit painful, but it's I guess it's the same thing like you said, because you get used to one language, and then you kind of want to do it in the same way.
I told you it's interesting to see and how would you build and how you shift your mind to a different language.
Yeah.
Even when you're building products, for example, and not just strictly stay with one and think about it. So yeah, it was interesting and it was fun. I mean, what motivates most of the developers, I think, to looking into more languages is what they're building. So if you feel a purpose with what you're building, I think that you are more attracted to learn a new programming language.
Definitely. I have this thing, actually, just to mention, because to build on top of what you said, because I have this thing with both programming languages, but also with like regular human languages, if you can call that. It's like the more languages you learn, the more languages you speak, and that goes to both like programming and non-programming languages, the easier it will get to learn another one. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that all three of us have at least on daily basis use more than one language, and I'm pretty sure that we all three do. And it does something to your brain, like what you said, but it also it goes with both programming and also like regular languages. You don't you think in a different way, you switch easier, you kind of don't get locked into those different paradigms or ways of expressing things in one language or another, and then you can actually just like produce things a bit less, more painless, kind of, in a way.
And also coming from a problem-solving background, all of us, including our audience, probably we're feeling all the same. Like when we want to build something, we're actually looking for the best tool to help us to build that something. We're not, unlike the idea of like sticking with just one language and all the time trying to use that one, regardless of its place. And actually, this is kind of how things get even better with different languages, or new languages got born thanks to the fact that you need something. And
need, or that you are curious and that you have the passion.
We're back to that.
Most of the time is either you need because the work environment, the work is pushing you to find that solution, or because you're like, oh my God, I cannot do this in this way. I cannot program in this way for so much time. And you're envisioning yourself probably on the long term, and you're like, yeah, do I want to do this on the long term with this thing? And then you change your mind. You're like, yeah, let's see what other options are there on the market and to build this.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk a bit about passion, because how you write in your bio that passion has driven your career. Define passion.
I it's a difficult because I mean, it's a difficult question
I
because,
know.
well, I mean, it just makes me. I just have to think because, well, because the thing is, passion can be different things. Passion can be something that you just love doing and really want to doing, and kind of being passionate about something is kind of being very kind of wanting to do that, and really kind of uh, feel good about it, right? But then what I say in a way is that it's not only passion to do that, because passion is a feeling, right? But then you need to kind of use that and um, utilize the energy kind of it generates or it brings. But then you
Mhm.
need to kind of combine it with some other personality sides, or whatever you can call it, like some kind of something that is not just a feeling, but something that you can build on top of. And I think the important things here that helped me a lot, and I think I'm not the only one, is kind of this eager to learn new things. So curiosity, so passion together with curiosity. So you kind of love doing it, but you're also really love to understand why things are working in the way they do, and things like that. That helps a lot. But then also, like, my third component, if I have to think, I mean, I'm thinking as I talk, so I might remember things and might forget things, but everything. But you know, passion, eager to learn things, eager to understand things. But the third thing is uh, also this feeling, good, warm, fuzzy feeling when you get to explain those things that you learn and share it with others.
Oh, yeah.
So those three things together, they make you to learn new stuff, but they also will kind of bring a lot of goodness to the community, to the world around you. So, for me, passion alone is not a thing, but with those three things
Three
together, it's a
components.
kind
I
of,
love.
I think it
Yeah.
gives a bit of value.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love it. And do you do a lot of side projects? Because often passionate people have also a lot of side projects. We had a show with Philippe Charrière, who is the champion of side projects. We discussed a lot that topic because it's you, if you're passionate, you can have side projects, but it's not a must-have for sure.
Mm.
You can enjoy your life as a developer without having any side projects, and you can still be passionate. But I'm just curious: do you
It
have a lot?
depends. I mean, it depends on what you again. It depends on what you define as a side project. Because the thing is, I do a lot of. I mean, doing speaking at the conferences, for example, right? This is technically, purely technically, it's not part of my job description. This is not what I'm kind of supposed to be doing every day, but I
Yeah,
still do it a lot. So I kind of would put that into in a way of like the side project kind of
yeah.
bucket. But then I do a lot of fun side, like IT geeky projects, where for example, we have planned with a colleague of mine. We've planned and we bought a bunch of stuff and everything. So this is, don't tell it anyone. Keep it
No,
secret
no,
for
we are
now.
just between us here. So
We're not on the internet, right, or
no, no,
anything.
exactly.
We actually bought a bunch of things to build a smart IoT based gingerbread house. So
Oh,
we have LED lights, and even like a tiny little wall of LED lights that are addressable, that you can do things. And we bought like bunch of different things, sensors, so we can program the whole thing. So there might be, I mean, there might or might not. I cannot neither confirm or deny, that there might be a gingerbread house with lots of IoT weird stuff coming up Christmas-ish time. I don't know.
Chris,
We'll
oh, I
see.
love it.
So that's one thing.
Yeah,
And so a little bit of spoiler alert.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I'm a geek. What do you
yeah,
what do
yeah,
you, what
yeah,
do you
yeah, yeah.
expect, right? But
So,
then
Yeah,
so
another thing is that I have another side project in a way where it's totally not IT related, but I have this. Yeah, thank you, Fuzz, that you keep the secret. Just don't tell it anyone.
yes. Mhm.
Um, Another thing is that I do have I have like a evening part-time job at the gym where I run classes with, like, running and strength and doing all these kind of things. So this is kind of my other passion thing, to actually keep moving and not just sit in front of a computer and build gingerbread houses, and talks, and being on the interwebs. So again, like I said, like define side projects. I have them.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the gingerbread house. You have side projects, I can tell you.
Speaking of, well, I see the connection between the two. I mean, the gingerbread house at some point is going to be eaten. So you need to burn the calories for that with the other activity.
There are two options for that. It's either eaten or burned down. I'm not sure which one. It depends on our skills and success.
I was about to say, it depends on your coding skills.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But that's a good point.
And also, fashion can also, you have to be careful. You spoke about using the energy of your passion, and you must be careful that it can produce a lot of energy. And that energy doesn't come for free, and you can get burnout because of passion. Exactly. And that's something that we must still remember. Use your energy efficiently, and but be careful, because it's not because you're passionate about something that you won't get burned out. So
exactly. And that's actually a very good point, because it's I always think about this when I say utilize this energy, and I kind of use this for a few things, and I usually make I don't know how it's with others, but again, I'm a bit of a geek in different ways. So I usually think of physics, and I think of like kinetic energy and potential energy. So if you lift something, you increase its potential energy, but if you kind of let it go, then it kind of converts to something that actually does the work, right? So you can actually think of it like this, and then you can think of what gives you energy and what takes your energy, right? And then side projects, they can very often take that energy, but they can also give you the energy. Like, I don't know, if you go for a run, if I train like 30 happy people just jumping around in a room and doing weights and smiling from ear to ear, that actually gives me energy, even though it physically is straining, right?
Yeah.
So think of what gives and what takes energy, and try to recharge in the way that works for you. We all are different.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. Just think of recharging. That's important. Yeah. Take the time for yourself. Sometimes doing nothing. You recharge doing nothing.
That's luxury.
That's luxury. I'm able to do that again now that I travel again. I like to do nothing when I'm flying in a plane. I like to do nothing.
You too, huh?
I just have my noise canceling headset without any music, just noise canceling, and I do nothing, and I enjoy those moments. Yeah.
Well, that could have been me describing that. Yes.
You can't, Anna?
Well, I am not working during flights, so I'm also enjoying the time off, but I'm reading during flights.
You're reading,
that's another story. What I want to say is that I think for all of us that are in this field as professionals in IT, we have our moments when we are at our high, and our moments when we need to be at a lower level. Not say to the lowest, or not saying that low is something bad for us, but we also need to give us time to not always be on a hype and running on a treadmill like a hamster, and just going and doing activities. And yes, Sabi, you're right. Passion can be a strong motivator to go forward and to learn a lot of things. But it is also good to nurture that passion and know when to take a step back maybe, and think what you can improve about yourself as a human being, not just as a developer. Because right now we are at a show about development, about IT, about developers, but we're also humans in our day-to-day life. We still are humans, and we have our personal lives as well, and we do not need to, and we should not neglect that, especially because family, friends, and all these people and beings that are around us, because you have 3 cats that
Yeah,
are
I was looking
asleep.
around. I have none. It's scandalous. Maybe one will join before the end.
Yes, you need to be careful with all your supporters. Otherwise, at some point, they're going to leave you during the show.
Exactly.
And yes, rest is good. Yes, Fuzz, you're right. Rest is
Yeah,
good.
first that's good. Some good quotes here. Yeah, yeah.
The
Yes,
rest is very good. And actually, I don't know how it's. I mean, I'm like I said, I might be a bit different than the others. I don't know if it works the same way for everyone else than just me. But rest is a very different. It can be different things, in my opinion. Anyway, it can be just doing nothing and just like regular kind of sitting on a beach with a little umbrella drink and just listening to the birds and waves to and stuff like that. That can be a very good and effective way to relax. But for me, it's also like switching the atmosphere, switching things. I mean, it can still be very active, still can be doing a lot of things, but different atmosphere. That also very often goes as a rest for me, because then it's like I switch the mindset. I do different things. I can be still active and doing a lot of things, but it still lets me kind of relax and don't think about, like, get out of my regular, I usually call it the regular kind of the hamster wheel, where you kind of run and run and run and run, and then you do something else, but you kind of still move forward as well. So it can be that, but it not necessarily have to be that, or your mileage may vary and all those things.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Um, we can continue on this topic, or we can switch a bit. Let me see. We can switch a bit more on the technical side. Speak a bit about Java if you want.
Sure.
Because I always mention that topic with when I talking to Java developers. So, are you one of those crazy people that follow every release and try out all the new features that comes out with every GDK release?
Huh. It's not always, I would say. I mean, there are a few things. I mean, there is always. I mean, there is always a few things that get released, right? But some of them would be a bit bigger things, some would be a bit smaller things. So it depends on how important things are. Sometimes it's just fun to try. I don't know. You just want to try. Oh, we've had multi-line
Yeah.
strings in Python forever and ever and ever, for millions of years before dinosaurs and everything, and now we got those in Java, and it's like, oh yay! But I know how it works, but it's kind of cool to try it, and and then you're done with it. But then there would be like much bigger and much more serious things. I don't know, like what we
Record.
got in Java. Yeah, records one of them, or I don't know what we got in Java 9 with the package system and all those, and all
Oh
this,
yeah.
the modules and everything. So it depends really on kind of the severity of those things, and what kind of things they are, and how they reflect or how they influence your stuff that you're doing, right? I mean, I'm not saying that multi-line strings is not an important thing. It is definitely a very welcomed feature, but you try it once and then it works, and then you're kind of fine with it. It's not, the module system takes a little bit longer to actually experiment and to understand how it works and everything, right? So it depends really on this kind of things, but it's always fun to try, and then you end up also, you have a little bit, I don't know, it's kind of, you feel that you have a little bit of this responsibility to help others to understand it, so you kind of end up spreading a bit more, like retweeting and resharing, all this, and maybe even blogging about that, and all those kind of things. But I try features, but I also try to test new frameworks that I haven't tried before, or new things that I haven't tried before, and this kind of things. So
Okay.
technology, libraries, frameworks, things like that as well.
That was to be about my next question. Which frameworks do you like around speaking about Java, web framework or any framework? Do you have a favorite?
I've been playing around, and I've been doing a lot of talks, and actually another one that was IoT related. That wasn't Gingerbread. That was kind of more controlling lights and stuff.
Okay.
But we played around with microprofile. So we did stuff with microprofile, which is, I don't know if you haven't tried that before. It's a kind of Java EE or Jakarta EE for microservices. So much smaller footprint, but similar kind of notations and everything, where you can build RESTful services and all those kind of things. So we did play around quite a bit with that, for example. And another thing that I been lately playing around quite a bit with is that's the URL. So thanks for sharing that, Sebi. Another thing was that I play quite a bit with, in one way or another. It's something called Eclipse Collections. So that's also quite a fun thing to play around with. I mean, this is totally different animal, right? This is more of a sets and maps and by maps. So you have like hash maps that point both ways at each other, and there's a kind of a lot of fun things that you can do with those. So
that's funny because our not the show, 2 shows before, our guest was Nia.
Oh yeah.
So we spoke about Eclipse Collections.
Exactly. So that's I have from one of the conferences back in the days, before we could travel. So I got this.
Oh, look at this.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, that's a
So
nice.
This is what I have on my desk. So.
Okay.
And it's kind of cool. And actually, I've been building some fun projects where I was combining those two. So I built something on a microprofile, a tiny little microservice that would do some stuff with sets and everything, and return. So it's actually, so we have both in one. So that was fun.
Okay. Any web framework that you prefer?
Like back in the day.
I mean, web frameworks. I don't know. I kind of usually pick them on a necessity basis. So I don't really have big preferences. I just when I pick the one that I need to do, and then I just do it, because I've been like my first job, my first kind of professional career thing. I was doing that was early 2000s, and that was. Nowadays it's called full stack developer. Back then it was just called developer. But I was doing kind of both, right? I mean, we were doing front end with JavaScript and CSS and all that, and making sure that it actually works on IE6. For those of you who remember that, I'm sorry to bring up bad memories, But and then you would just go back to the Java backend and fix things on JSF and JSP and all those things, and then you just and then something really horribly bad happened on CSS again, and that was times when I don't know if you remember something called Firebug. There was this tool that's a Firefox plugin called Firebug.
Yes.
That was the kind of predecessor and grandfather or mother or grandparent or whatever of all those developer tools that you see now in Chrome, Chromium, Firefox, and all those. And that thing was just in beta. Some people were talking about it, like, oh my God, have you tried that thing? And, we were so happy to actually make it so you could actually do something else than just alerts in JavaScript. Yeah, people remember that. That's really nice. Getfirebug.com, yes.
Yeah, if you click on the link, it's really funny because you have a whole story explaining.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, when I used Firebug, it was in early stages of me starting to code, and I found it like awesome. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome.
It was still in beta when I used it first, but it was more stable than anything I've seen in a long time. It was really nice.
Yeah. And you were speaking about your first project. My first professional project, I had to use JetSpeed. Do you remember JetSpeed? Which was the portal. It's called now it's called Portal, I think. JetSpeed. It's It's portlets basically. Yeah. Let me put a link there. And yeah, my first assignment was this, and then quickly after I did stretch stuff. Okay, but yeah, JetSpeed was one of the first things. Yeah, I remember the first time me joining a mailing list and asking questions and yeah, it was nice technology. Those small portlets that you have, and nowadays I know that the new trend is having micro front ends. I see a lot of talks about that. And it reminds me a bit the port. I said, oh, it's just like portlets, We're just coming back to yeah.
Well, the micro frontends trend has started. I mean, the first time I've heard about it, it was something in 2018. But that was like a new thing, like, oh, microservices and now micro frontends. But I think it's quite a great concept to have in mind, especially when you're thinking to the front end part of the microservices. I mean, let's say that from the backend perspective, you are kind of sorted out and you can have an idea. However, if you're still building one UI, one application for the UI, you still kind of get to the same bottleneck you used to have before. So yeah, micro frontends is a very nice thing. I mean, very nice pattern to be looked into.
It is nice. I mean, it's it's basically bringing kind of microservices to front end, and it's still. I mean, we had the similar things about that back in the days, but we never really called. We didn't have a nice name for that. I think again. I mean, like
we didn't have a cool name,
like all the other things. And, but that's really cool. Yeah.
And we have a question here from the listeners from Deepatia. How much Java has revived from 2007? Wow. It's funny. Well, I had a talk this morning about Quarkus, and we start with the statement Java is dead, and that was a statement that I was hearing back in 2004 when I started working. I already heard that. And we explain people that it's a bit exaggerated. And to be honest, since 3 years now, the Java and JVM ecosystem is so booming. It's so exciting. And yeah, with projects like Micronaut, but Quarkus, of course. Yeah, I think we're really living exciting moments for Java.
For Java, yeah, definitely.
I had to. I mean, I have to admit that I had to, like, when I saw this question, I had to go a little bit back in the memory line, and I actually had to go to the Wikipedia to see the release history to see which version we're on in 2007. So I can, in case you.
Java 5? Oh?
Yeah, close. It's getting not. I mean, so Java SE 6 was released in December 2006.
Okay.
So in 2007, we were still fresh on Java 6. And 7 came at 11. So it's at 2011. So that took some time. So we were right in just the beginnings of 6. So just in case you wonder what that was happening around that time.
Yeah.
And that was I think that's where kind of my first projects I started with things. And back then was like JSP was it kind of the bleeding edge kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like a lot of JSP.
If you knew how to write JSPs, you were cool back then.
You had nice.
No, actually, sorry. JSP was kind of getting past the hype thing. JSF was getting like the traction. I think around that time. I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If
there was a split. There were people using JSF. Still people still using GSPs with framework stack libs and TypeScript.
Because I remember it well. I mean, the projects that I was working a lot with maps. So we were building like map solutions where we just, you would pan and zoom and do all these things in a map and, create, calculate routes. So basically all those things that you take for granted on Google Maps now, we used to kind of do and write a lot of those things ourselves. And back then, and that was a lot of Java, and that was a lot of solutions were actually, the old ones would be on JSP, and the newer ones that we kind of created from scratch would be on JSF. So that's why I remember that quite fun.
Now that you mentioned 2007 and Java Java SE 6, I remember that. The first time I met Java was in 2007. So for me, I started with Java 6 directly. So when I was hearing about projects on Java 5 or things specific to Java 5, I was like, but are we all on 6 now? Why are we still using this 5? But this is me.
I was probably on 1.4 in 2007 still.
So I think it depends a lot on your I don't know, in your background or how young you are. But if you're like in that year and just starting with Java, you're looking to the latest one. And if you're lucky to like look into, I mean, for projects, of course, at university, what could be used? But the latest version, nobody stops you.
Yeah.
And
And then you come to the industry, and then you learn about something called legacy. And then you
I don't know
open the project, and then you look at the Java version, and you're like, oh, okay, that's end of life, about to go end of life, and we still need to upgrade a lot of enterprise Java beans.
Well, you would be surprised, but I managed to avoid I managed to avoid the legacy with older than 6. So that was my achievement because but I think nowadays we could call legacy if you see something running on 7, probably.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting. And also starting as an engineer, I was like thinking like because I thought that's only the specification for AGBs. If you remember the AGBs,
yes.
I thought that's only. I was very much into the third version, but I didn't know there were other 2 before, and I was like, is it just one? Why is not just one? Why is this one different?
I remember there was when people were like with horror talking about upgrading to AGB 3, and you would be like, what? I mean, that's just. I mean, what are you talking about?
But I looked into AGB 2 as well, but I could understand and feel the pain of the people because I was looking between the differences, and I was like, oh. Yeah, and they were fun times. I mean, they're fun times as a developer back then, but fun times as a developer back now. Probably the innovation lane is happening way more faster right now as a Java developer, especially when you're looking to the JDK itself. There are a lot of improvements, and I think nowadays we have much more opportunities, not just to contribute to that, but also to like experiment with the side of performance of the Java. Because back in the day, as a developer, my perspective is like you were building something, you were creating an application profile, and it was working. And nowadays, you can also get involved into the performance aspect and think about, okay, which garbage collector works best for you? How do you tweak that? Why is that important for you? And many more things. And yes, Java is an ocean.
And I still have, and you know, Anna, when Nia was there, I think she said that I still have it here in my captions. She came with this.
Java is aging like wine. Yes, indeed.
I love this one.
Yes,
it is true. I mean, it is true, and it
is true. Yeah.
And it is the weird thing is that we all have been seeing this posts about like, oh, Java is old and dead and stuff, and it's like, oh, Python is so cool and hipster and stuff, and then you would be like, wait a second, did you actually check when those were actually created, like the dates and years and stuff? And then people kind of were talking about all that without realizing that Python was technically even older. Right. I think if I remember that correctly, I think Python is like 1 or 2 years older. I will probably need to look it up now, but I don't remember exact dates. But I think I do remember, have like vague memory of that. So, it all is kind of perceived and a bit like relative to all, and it's filled with tears of genius.
Yeah, Java is an ocean, and it's filled with the tears of genius going through legacy.
I have a funny story about this legacy code thing, and it has nothing to do with Java. I mean, because at the university back in the days when I was like doing all my stuff, and I thought it would be fun to learn more languages, so I ended up taking a course in. I mean, that was not that long time ago. It was just like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago we're talking about. I had to decided to learn. Hold on to your chairs, tables, whatever.
Ooh.
Yeah, Fortran,
Fortran.
Fortran
Oh,
77. So legacy. Speaking of legacy things, and that thing was interesting because 77 version would have even requirements to the way you would put things into files. At least the version that we were running. So it would actually, again, I don't remember exact details, but I think like first 8 characters in a file would be considered comments. Then after character 9 and plus to whatever 180, 160 or something like that, there would be actual code. And after that, anything would be considered as a comment again.
wow.
So can you imagine if you forget about all that and you're writing your code in Emacs or something, and then you do a little bit of indentation boo-boo, or do without, like, continue with a long line without actually doing line break.
Yeah.
And that was because of the punch cards, right? Because from the
Oh
old
yeah.
things, I
Yeah.
do believe it had something to do with that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 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 That's really legacy.
Good luck debugging that, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I
Well,
see some exploding heads. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean I did that a few times, and that's exactly how I felt. Yes.
well, speaking from memories, so in the programming field, I was not the first in my family. Before me, a cousin of my mother's, she went to computer science, and she did experience Fortran. So when you were talking about it, I was like, yeah, I heard about that, because she was surprised that I don't do that anymore in university. So I was like, thank
Mm-mm.
God. But it was years later.
Um,
So yeah, but it used to be done in university. It used to be there in the field. So yeah.
Mm-mm.
I
Uh,
was speaking of that. I also just got not to experience similar. I don't know if you know similar as a programming languages
No.
as a programming language. So it is the first. I mean, it's so I studied my computer science here in Norway in Oslo University, and the first programming object-oriented programming language was similar. Was made at that university, created by two guys, and that was called Simula, and that was just when I started on my Java courses, like beginner intro to object-oriented programming and stuff. I was I think the first or second year that was actually switched after we switched to Java from Simula. So I just got not to
wow,
experience the first one, first object-oriented programming language.
whoa.
Yeah. Well. Hey,
Did
I'm
Fortran
checking the time, but
Yeah,
we are
we're on 1 hour.
running out of time.
Mm.
Oh,
I think we could
you're having
keep.
fun.
We
Oh
are
yes.
having fun, exactly. I'm not sure if someone is on the channel after, but I will give it back to the channel. Rustam, are you becoming? Are you traveling? Are you at J Focus? No.
Not that I haven't planned for that. So
Okay.
not
Okay.
really. I mean, I was trying not to travel too much before
Okay.
summer, and then
Mm, okay.
I think I will end up traveling a little bit anyway. But
Okay. So maybe.
unfortunately, I won't be there.
Okay. DevOps UK.
No, no, not that
Oh,
one
okay.
either. I'm
I'm
sorry.
just finding a moment where we will.
Maybe. How about JBC? There is a chance that I might be in
Oh, I know
Barcelona,
Anna is there. Yeah. I don't know yet.
and there is also a chance I might be in Portugal for J
Oh,
Nation.
J Nation.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. Oh, I will try to make J Nation. Maybe just the Quarkus Day. I still have to see.
So I might be joining on Quarkus Day because I will. A colleague of mine and I will be doing so we basically package some Java code into Quarkus. We put it on like serverless cloud thing, and then we do some crazy stuff with it. So that's going to be a
Okay.
quite
Okay.
fun talk that we have planned for J Nation.
Okay.
So
Now
kind of spoiler
I've
alert.
oh, spoiler. A lot of
I know,
spoiler
right?
alerts.
Secrets.
The ginger.
Spoiler goods.
Yeah,
Spoiler
spoilers are
goods.
good. Hey. Anyway, it was an awesome talk. I think we could have keep talking the whole
We
night.
should do that
Maybe.
again.
Yeah, we can do it again, of course. Rustam, thank you so much for joining the show. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun. Thank you, Anna, also to join as host. It's always a pleasure. Anna, I see you next week in Stockholm. So that's great.
Yeah, you see me in person. It's
I see you in person in Stockholm,
Nice.
and the week after at Devox UK. So that's nice. And Rustam, yeah, we will cross our roads sooner than
Thank
later.
you again for inviting me, and thank you to people in the chat for
Yes, yeah,
asking questions and commenting and doing all these fun things.
yeah, we love
And
that. Yeah,
thanks to Anna and Sebi for hosting me, so for being there with me and inviting me. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
See you.
See you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.